Alrighty, so if you just want to start off by introducing yourself, name, major, pronouns if you're comfortable sharing those, and who you work with on campus.
Okay, yeah. So I'm Bailey McCowan. I'm a recording and production major, which is a concentration in the music industry studies. So I work in like studio settings with recording, and I'm a percussion major. I do percussion stuff in school. I'm in ensembles, and I am the co-president of the Femgineers, which is a club for music industry students for femme-identifying, non-binary, genderqueer individuals in the music industry. So.
Hi, I'm Josephine Huffines. I did my undergraduate degree here at Appalachian in business management. My minors were sustainable business and experiential integrative learning, and I'm currently getting a master's in higher education with a concentration in university and community college leadership.
My name is Hannah Higgins. I am a senior electronic media broadcasting major with a concentration in media management and programming, and I'm graduating in December of 2022.
My name is Nathan Asher. I'm a sophomore, and I am a music industry studies major with a concentration in recording and production and a minor in general business.
When I heard about the Femgineers from, I think she was a senior, and she was the president, and I would always just feel, because it's really intimidating coming into this big of a studio. There's a lot of gear, there's a lot of boys. So just coming in here, I was just really I'm scared because I'm not knowledgeable about any of this stuff, and I feel like everyone else in my class is. So when it was cool to meet someone like Anna Izell, who was a former president when I was a freshman, she was always so friendly to me in the studio and always welcomed me into her session, like, hey, do you want to see what I'm doing here? And always, I felt super comfortable, asking her questions and just, being in this space with her. She was just a really comfortable person to be around, and she told me about the Femgineers, and I was like, that's so awesome. I'd love to get involved with that.
So I was always aware of Femgineers. It's something that's really drilled into the heads of freshmen that are coming in because that solidarity is so important. This is a very heavily male-dominated field. But there was a while when I got to college where I wasn't too sure of my gender. I was like, am I too much of a man to do this? Which I'm not a man, so. But am I going to be perceived as an infiltrator in this space? Am I going to be perceived as someone who shouldn't be here? Because at the time it was really just women and gender nonconforming people.
I was so excited to come into this major, and I don't know, the spark kind of died when you get to be an upperclassman and you really see how you're treated differently and nobody really talks about it. And then you have that self-doubt of, is it just me? Is it really my abilities? Do I really not know what I'm doing? And the spark dies more and more until you get to graduation and you don't even know if you're, fit to be in a broadcasting position.
So we recently, as a class, a bunch of us went to New York for the Audio Engineering Society conference. It's this huge nationwide conference in New York. It was an experience. I'm in this really interesting position where people outside of the studio perceive me as a woman, but I do not perceive myself as a woman, and I feel like no one else does. So I experienced a really interesting combination of transphobia and misogyny at the same time, which was something. I dress very colorfully. I was wearing this rainbow hat for most of the conference, and there was this one guy who kept calling me Miss Rainbow and that rainbow woman. And then, I was wearing button-down shirts and pants, and I have shorter hair, and this one guy was very insistent on calling me sweetie at the broadcasting side of the conference. So I just kind of had to be like, okay, dealing with this or correcting anything would cause more problems for not just myself, but my classmates. So I'm just not gonna say anything, because these people will probably not have that much of an impact on my career, hopefully. So it was just kind of a shitty situation where I had to just sort of smile, nod, and move on.
I had a professor tell me and some of my friends that, oh, well, you should smile more. Why don't you just put on a smile when we have to get up at 6 a.m. to go to 8 a.m. classes, and we have a full workload, and none of our male classmates have a smile on their face. So I don't know what the difference is with me.
In one particular class, it was an entrepreneurship class, I was grouped with all male members, and that was, not difficult for me. I had been used to those settings. I was a senior at the time. However, they did not put in equal amount of work, were pretty much disinterested, and I went to the female professor at the time, and they had basically told me, what could I have done better as a female to take control of the situation, and had implied that because I was a high achiever, that was what was hindering me from making connections with these male students. And that was pretty disheartening. I had kind of told her, I'm reading between the lines of what you're saying with bossy, and I read that immediately as bitchy. And I think it's okay to sometimes be the bitch, especially in those types of settings.
Sometimes it's hard to see people interact on social media. Like, I remember one of the upperclassmen, I heard about it. I didn't see it, but I heard about him, posting something that was yeah, oh, here's all my successes. I'm this and this and this. Yeah, it's a man's world. It's a man's world. And I saw that, and it's just weird, seeing him in the studio, and he's a popular guy around here, and he's super inspiring. He's someone I really look up to because he works so hard and he grinds, and he's amazing at what he does. But every time I talk to him, I don't know if it's just me or if other women have experienced this, or just people, it might just be the way he is, but maybe I'm also conditioned to think that way, so I'm having to rewire my brain. But every time I talk to him, I feel like he's looking at me, he's eye fucking me. I feel like every single time he's trying to talk to me, and then I'm just in the back of my mind, I'm yeah, it's a man's world. You think it's a man's world, that's so funny, but you're sitting here telling me I'm a rock star and telling me I'm so talented and that I can do anything, and do you really believe that? Are you really gonna give me opportunities? Are you really gonna help me learn? But at the same time, that's also someone that has been really helpful to me in the studio,
There was a comment in a class I had where the professor was talking about somebody being hysterical or emotional. It was in context, made sense, and some guy interjected with, oh, well, that just sounds like a woman. That sounds like a typical woman.
Having that Women of Walker space made me able to share resources, but also experience. Even women that I know that aren't members of Women of Walker tend to share their experiences in internships and also share opportunities. And I think that's really special. I think that's something that is the spirit of Appalachian, which is different, I'd say, from a UNC Chapel Hill situation where it's more competitive.
We all have this unspoken understanding that we're outnumbered and that this is something difficult to go into alone. And I've made friends with the males in my class. I have, and I trust some of them, and I'll ask them questions, but it's something different with somebody who has walked in the shoes. And so you find those people very quickly, and it's just you can trust each other, and you can lean on each other and ask each other questions without any sort of major misogynistic judgment. I have been in many classes where the most amount of females in it are maybe 4, including me. And so obviously you have to work with everybody in your class, and I'd love to learn from everybody. But there has been times when I've gone to ask a question about maybe something about a camera or something in the studio, and I've kind of just been brushed off, and that makes me feel even more doubt. That makes me doubt myself even more, because I was oh, well, maybe that was a simple thing and I should have known it. But if I can find maybe a female in my class, then there's that sort of unspoken camaraderie of okay, I don't know this, but I don't know if I should. And they're oh, don't worry, this is how you do it. And I've even professors kind of notice it, so I've had to get help from them, and luckily I've gotten a good amount of support from them. It's really just when I ask questions and backs start to turn.
The Leading Women in Audio conference was like honestly really eye-opening, because even though I'm like sitting in a classroom with like 2 other girls and like there's upperclassmen girls as well, it's definitely like just awesome to see like women being so successful and women being so knowledgeable. It's just like so like obviously like they're badass women, like they're girl bosses, but like it's cool seeing them like talk about their careers and talk about their experiences. So like that conference was so inspiring and like eye-opening to me about that. Hearing about women that had to, you know, like I said when I entered the program, which is on a smaller scale than what they had to do, but still it still applies, like just really proving yourself, being like, if I'm going to be doing what I want to do at the level I want to do it, I have to be the best. I have to want to be the best, I have to be the best. I have to literally compare myself to the men around me in order to be competitive in any sense, just because it is hard to be taken seriously. The real world is fucking brutal. Like, it's really, really brutal. And I kind of got a glimpse of that when we went to this conference in October, which was the Audio Engineering Society convention. 1 in every 15 speakers were women. You know, 1 of every 20 people you would walk past were women or genderqueer in some way. That convention was so challenging. Like, even just like, I'm a really social person. I pride myself on like being able to like talk to anyone, being able to like, especially things that I'm passionate about. But when I walked into a room that was like probably close to 500 people of like all audio engineers that were all in suits and all like cis white men for the most part, it was like, oh my God, for a second, like not for a second, like for the whole time, I felt really, really small. I found myself sitting in the same exact place, just listening to people talk all day, because I just thought that all I could do was absorb information, because I didn't know anything I didn't think I had anything to give.
I think I would reiterate that it's okay to take up space, and I also think it's okay to lean into your femininity if that's something that you're comfortable with, and not let anyone make you feel guilty for that or make you feel lesser than for that. And something that I always have to tell myself when I'm not feeling as confident on those days: would I still be treated like this, and would I still be feeling like this if I did not fall into that category? And so again, I'm gonna say, if you're right and you know something around you is wrong, you know, is unjust, I think it's okay to lean into that and say, if I have to be the bitch, I have to be the bitch, because if I was a man, they would not be saying this. They would be saying that I'm powerful, they'd be saying that I'm confident, and so I don't take that term as derogatory. I think it's okay to fall into that role when you need to.
Find solidarity. Don't isolate yourself. Don't let yourself be isolated. Find people that you can work with. Find people that you can be encouraged by, even if they're not in your major, even if it's in a club, or even if it's just you and some friends. You have the opportunity to work with a lot of other people at this school. It's one of the most beautiful things about being in college. Most of the solidarity I find doesn't come from this major, even though I love the Femgineers. It comes from my a cappella group. It comes from the people that I work with who want to do work with administration, who want to make things better at this school. We are a unit, even though it can sometimes feel like we all hate each other. So don't let yourself sit in your dorm room and just cry about your issues, because yeah, things suck, but if we're hopeful and if we are encouraged and inspired to make change, there's a lot we have the potential to do.
Don't ever let anyone tell you that you're small. Don't ever try and like think that you can't do something, because you absolutely can. It's easier said than done, but find people that share your interests, find people that you feel comfortable and safe around, and do whatever makes you happy and do whatever you love, no matter what anyone else says, and you will be successful.